Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Manflow Yoga podcast. Today, I'm joined by two-time Highland Games World Champion Matt Vincent. There's a lot of other stuff in your title, but we'll go over that at another time. So, Matt, first off, thanks for joining me for a conversation.
Dude, I'm really, really stoked to be here, Dean. I appreciate it. I think I love getting the podcast. I like getting to host mine, and it's always fun getting to chat with other people and talk to their audience. So
Mhm.
thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, and we don't know each other too well yet. So I usually like to start these telling people how we know each other. And I was introduced to you actually through our customer service and our community manager, whose name is Jesse, and he used to do Highland Games. So he used to do um, well, how about you start off by defining what the Highland Games are, rather than me saying, "Well,
Sure.
you just throw a really big tree and you hope it goes far."
Yeah, it's essentially what it is. So it's a 9 event competition that is the Scottish heavy athletics. They've been around a really, really long time. So the 9 events, or what people are familiar with typically, is the caber, which is a big telephone pole. It's guys in kilts throwing rocks like Braveheart doing that whole shebang. But
Hmm.
the actual sport of it is 9 events where we throw two stones, just like shot put. We throw two weights for distance. We throw a weight for height over a bar. The caber, of course, and then the sheaf. We throw a 20-pound hay bale with a pitchfork for height. And at some point in my life, I was the best at those things.
Yeah,
So it was really, really fun sport, man. And kind of as a thrower, out of the college realm, I did that at LSU as a shot put, discus, and hammer thrower. Did a few years of strongman, and then finally, once I got into the Highland Games, all of my background as a thrower plus everything else really lined up, and so I'd kind of just found a sport that I was really good at, and it was a lot of fun for a number of years. I retired in 2016 due to complications of knee surgery, I suppose, is probably the better answer at this point. But yeah, just wore out my knee and was trying to get it fixed. Didn't go great. Um, that ended up in a couple years battling some really gnarly chronic pain, as well as figuring out new identity and how
mm,
to go forward now that I'm no longer an athlete and I can't do the thing that makes me happy.
yeah,
And
and
we're at some point down the road, we're here.
yeah, and that's what I really want to get into. So I was thinking about this yesterday, but I was thinking about it in a completely different context, actually, but it applied to you as well. And I was thinking about how some people, they have to continue to struggle. They have to continue to push themselves in order to stay where they're at or continue to improve. And that's great. That's inspiring. Working through things, but being able to basically maintain or get better from where you are. But what's a lot different than that, and what's a lot more challenging, is continuing to struggle, is continuing to push yourself, but then having to deal with a severe or a big, reduction in your capabilities, and having to go through that struggle, having to reframe your identity, having to, create new parameters on what's going to make you happy. Um, and I think that's much harder, and that's what you've talked about. That's what a big theme of is with your fitness journey for the last few years. That's something that you talk about in your documentary Fragile, which I recommend everybody go check out. It's on Matt
Thanks,
Vincent's
man.
YouTube channel. Yeah, it was nice. It was good to watch, and it reminded me of that typical mindset of when you're injured, when basically you're just like, I just want to be able to do this, or like, I just want to be able to walk without pain, and you think about how nice it was to be able to do all the things you were able to do, and you're at this point where you're just like, I just want to walk. So
Yep.
let's talk about that. Let's just dive into your thoughts.
Yeah. So, I think mindset wise as an athlete, look, I really loved the sport that I was part of. And what I really loved about the sport was having a thing to train for that I got to test on a regular basis and be around a community of people. I don't identify apparently really much as a Highland Games competitor. Uh, I don't know how important that is. It was a great fun sport. I love it. Um, I'm not keeping up with it to date, if that makes it. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not a
Mhm.
giant fan of the thing. I'm not obsessed with the Highland Games culture. I like
Mhm.
doing a thing. Um,
Yeah.
and it was wonderful, man. I got to meet the best people in the world, travel around with this group of guys that were also lunatics and trying to compete in a thing that no one gives a shit about. Um, and it was the best. And I always knew that like this was a thing I was doing and not who I was. I knew that like this
Mm.
wasn't going to be a long term thing for the rest of my life. And I don't understand. I guess I get confused why people get caught on that like this is who I am. I do this now forever. Like my chapters have ended before, right? Like I'm not a high school football player anymore. I'm
Mhm.
not a collegiate track and field athlete anymore. I don't work at the same company I worked at before. I've been married before. I've had plenty of chapters that, at some point in the middle of them I thought were forever aren't.
Mhm.
And so I look at everything going forward as like, cool, this is what we get to do right now.
Yeah.
And I knew the Highland Games would eventually come to an end and I would find interest in another thing, whatever that meant. I didn't think I would be the guy out there at 45 still doing the Masters competition and being part of it.
Mhm.
Those guys are awesome. I just, I'm too much of a spaz and a lunatic to do one thing for that long.
Mhm.
And
So,
so, what I didn't prepare for was getting hurt and not being able to be an athlete.
mm.
I had prepared to not have my sport in that
Mhm.
capacity, right? Like I can live without being able to compete in the Highland Games, but I'd never prepared that I was going to be trapped inside a machine that doesn't respond anymore. Like going from doing second in the world at my sport, and this thing has always responded to me with it's just done whatever I've ever asked for it, and I've totally taken for granted.
Mhm.
And I essentially just put the coals to it for a decade, and I broke it. I
Mm.
got really lucky enough to get out of it being broken. But during that time when it was broken, man, it took a lot to deal with the fact that I had felt any of the exceptionalness of me was gone.
Mm.
And
So,
I could just see this normal life ahead.
uh-huh. So what I'm thinking of right now is, so you talked about you've been going through the transitions. You were a high school athlete, then you were a college athlete, then you found yourself in Highland Games. Did you always have that mindset of this is not who I am, this is what I do? Or was there a certain point when you had to, was there a certain point where you had to realize that, or was there just a process that you've always had for, thanking the activity, thanking that process of your life, moving on to something else, doing something new, or was that something that you had to learn?
Um, for sure learned.
Hmm.
For sure learned. I didn't have the gratitude for it at a younger age. This is definitely something I've been able to piece together on the way forward. Believe me, I put up plenty of resistance to all those things ending. Well, other than like high school football, like you don't get to keep playing high school football, right? You're out of fucking high school. The ends come to that.
The
We
Tim
do
Riggins
okay with
story.
things. Yeah, well, we know about the stuff that society or time or say high school, right, has an end day. Those
Hmm.
things put in chapters, and people are pretty good with that because someone else is at the wheel. People have a really hard time with saying like I think I'm done with this and choosing to walk away from whatever that thing is. um, I didn't get to choose to walk away necessarily, but also I'm kind of aware that I wouldn't have. Like there's no way that I could have been. I'm not the guy that in 2016 would have been able to say like, I think my knee's pretty bad, but if I stop, retire, lose weight, and find some other interest, I probably don't need to have knee surgery.
Hmm.
I'm not that guy. I'm a guy that wanted to continue trying to be the best in the world at a thing. So had a plan of going into knee surgery and all that, and went from taking second in the world at my last competition to not able to walk 400 meters like in a day.
Yeah.
Like I traveled with a cane for 2 years. Um,
Hmm.
and I had submitted completely to this is what it's going to be going forward.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any light at the end of that tunnel.
So what was that like when you were experiencing, okay, I'm not going to get, or were you grappling with this experience of, I don't think I'm going to get better. Like, I don't think this is going to, what was, what was going on.
I remember having a day, and oddly enough, man, I was, I've been doing things publicly a long time, right? So going
Hmm.
into this round of knee surgery, my intention with YouTube and et cetera was we're going to document and film me going in, having an ACL surgery. I'll document the rehab. I'll fucking do all that really well. Get back to throwing a year later, see where we're at.
Mm,
Um, but it's all documented on my YouTube channel as well as in a book I've been working on. But while I was journaling and writing, like I remember there being a point where I went into a surgery and the chronic pain thing had taken over. Where typically after surgery, pain relief is relatively linear,
hmm.
relatively speaking. You have good days and bad days, but by weeks on weeks, it's trending the right direction. And so with the chronic pain, it just gets to a point where it's like, oh, this doesn't ever change. And not only does it not change, only the things you do in the day make it worse.
Hmm.
There is no way to make it lower than wherever that number is all the time. And that's laying down, that is standing, it is moving or not moving. It doesn't give a shit.
Mm,
Um, and so once that had set in, my priority of giving a shit about ever competing again really vanished quickly.
mm,
And I really didn't really get to mourn the death of that chapter until much later after I'd figured out total knee replacement and got out of pain and really started looking inward more.
hmm.
But
Yeah.
man, it's ugly.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of times when I was a lacrosse player in college. I've had knee issues on and off since I was 13, which mainly came down to lack of hip strength, lack of core strength, not doing the right exercises. But I've had periods where my knee has just not been cooperative, and it's just been like the limiting reagent in my the equation of my physical fitness. And you go through these periods where you're like, okay, I'm going to respect it. I'm going to do the rehab. And then you get frustrated and it's not recovering faster. So you're just like, screw it. You're just going to do what I want. And then it says, okay, this is going to hurt tomorrow. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's like you can negotiate with a lot of things. Like I'm usually in a position where I can negotiate. Like I can get 5 more minutes, or I can, I can ask people to whatever to change the situation, but you can't negotiate with how quickly the sun is going down when you're trying to finish up an evening hike, and you can't negotiate with your body and if it's going to feel pain or not.
No, but I sure tried for a number of years. I remember being like, okay, well, like, so we won't do anything tomorrow and the next day. That's fine. I have those days to not do anything. So I can cook it today. Like I would just build in like 2 days of like fucking cool. I'm gonna take 2 days of eating a bunch of anti-inflammatories and opiates and stay off of it. Like
Hmm.
essentially not walk for 2 days
Yeah.
was was the deal. And it just got to the point that that was always going to be the deal. Like that was never going to be a thing. And so what ends up coming with it is like you just can't enjoy doing anything.
Yeah.
Like everything fucking hurts. And whether I go and whether if I'm engaged enough in the current thing happening, I don't hear, the interference from my knee telling me that we're in pain. I'm having a good time. That's genuine.
Hmm.
But as soon as that noise dives back down and the pain is higher, that's all I can hear. And there was no
Hmm.
way to get away from it or turn it off. Like I said, like laying flat, putting ice on it, none of it fucking matters.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is trying to hide it.
Hmm.
Um,
And I
and
think
so
I
that
want to.
that took a long time to go through, man.
Yeah, I mean, I want to point out just how long you went through that. So you had 11 knee surgery,
I had
13,
nine,
9.
nine
Okay.
knee surgeries, yeah,
Why not 10,
in a
man?
3-year window. Well,
It's
we
so
finished.
close.
We did a total knee replacement. There's nothing else to go in there and do.
Yeah.
It's all
Um,
metal now.
and that was over how many years
Three
process?
years.
3-year process. So I just want you, if you've ever been injured before, if you're listening to this, you've ever been injured before, I want you to think about how terrible it feels to be, injured for 6 weeks. So currently, for example, my wife has a stress fracture right now, and she's been in a boot for 6 weeks. And 2 weeks in, she was like, "This is terrible. You know, this is like, I can't believe this has happened. I hate this. I'm not able to walk. I'm not able to play with with our child." And you were there for 3 years.
Yeah, give or
So
take.
so I
You know,
just
various
wanna
degrees of it.
I just wanna point that out. Like, that's a
And,
really long time to be in that space.
and there's plenty of people who've dealt with much harder situations than I have,
Mhm.
but this is my experience, right? And
Yeah.
I don't believe pain or trauma that we've had to endure is a competition that your and I's is different. It's just the max that we've ever had to deal with,
Mhm.
right? And so this is the most I've ever had the opportunity to be fucking part of, and that's what I had to get through.
Yeah.
And man, I went in. Like I had the opportunity to really try to do anything I could to figure out pain. And so I first thing I was doing was if there was any type of a measurable marker that made pain relief happen, I had to try.
Mhm.
So first thing is change nutrition completely. I end up losing about 60 pounds through the course of this. And like I can't
How
really
much did
train,
you
right?
weigh
Like
at your, like, peak competition weight? How much did you weigh?
peak competition weight for the Highland Games, I set about 295, 290. And
And
then
how tall are you?
for 6 foot, I'm not very tall.
6 foot,
Um,
298. That's a lot of
yeah,
weight for 6 feet.
yeah, it looked like a memory foam mattress. Uh, Very strong, moved very
Wow.
well.
Okay.
Not great looking. This machine's much better looking, much less functional.
Much
Um,
more Instagram friendly.
Fuck yeah, much less functional though. That guy beat the shit out of me. Uh, um, but yeah, so I lose the weight because
Mhm.
I've switched over to doing a ketogenic diet because I
Mhm.
want to reduce inflammation. Like that's why I'm pursuing it. I'm not pursuing it to lose weight. The side effect seems to be losing weight because I'm eating less food. I'm also doing less things. Like I can't train,
Mhm.
so I'm trying to develop ways to stay active too. I spend a ton of time on the assault bike because I can put my bad leg uh, on the peg and still be able to use the 3 points.
Mhm.
Right. So at least that way I know metabolically I'm in control there. What I can't do is let this pain get fucking compounded by me being 350 pounds.
Yeah.
I am at a fucking crossroad to make that decision. And I can either start picking off and controlling everything in my life that I'm able to figure out or hand it all over and wait for
Mhm.
magic. And I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And so just went into it, man. I lost weight to see what that changed or made anything better. And there was some markable difference, man. Like I did feel better the less carbohydrates I was eating at the time. I did 8 months of a straight carnivore type thing. Didn't notice any real incredible benefit to pain reduction there.
Mhm.
Had some physique changes, of course, but man, whatever. Um, then, I mean, I even tried doing shit damn near a pescatarian approach for a while. I've never taken red meat out of my diet, so I was curious to know, do I see any noticeable difference there after 3 or 4 weeks? And I didn't,
Mhm.
so I brought it back in. If it works for you, killer. If it doesn't, try something else.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've kind of slowly switched over into basically doing a vertical style diet. It seems to work really well for me, be very consistent, and I've been working with a meal prep company for a long time now that I'm kind of out of the woods on it. But I did that. I did really my biggest concern was getting the fuck away from opiates. Like, I
Mm.
know that road's bad,
Yeah.
but I also know that they're a necessary evil currently.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to figure out the best way to maximize what's the I want to be able to get the absolute most out of taking the least amount of it. Right. And so the best
Mhm.
way I can do that is not build a tolerance to it. So what else can I do that can reduce pain if it's at a 3 instead of an 8?
Mhm.
Because I need it to work when it's in an 8.
Yeah.
And so I built an ice tub in my backyard with a chest freezer. I had
Mhm.
a hot tub that I would use. Would get some noticeable difference with both of those. I noticed with the cold that I could turn the pain off while I was in it. Like I
Mhm.
basically couldn't hear it, but
Right.
it's not real sustainable to live in a chest freezer. I found out.
You cannot do that.
Tough. I found probably the biggest difference in my mindset and mood really came from starting to use cannabis
Okay.
uh, on a really regular basis,
Mhm.
medicating that way, which kept me away from opiates, kept me able to sleep better. And then when I still needed opiates, they work.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think a lot of people are still. I think a lot of people are still coming around to the idea that cannabis is a legitimate form of long-term therapy
yeah,
for.
and I mean, I don't understand why they're not. I mean, fuck, there's no evidence of the contrary.
Hmm.
And so, like, whatever. I don't care that people don't get it. Whatever
Yeah.
keeps the shops are less crowded.
No, I
Um,
just wanted to bring it up because I think
right?
it's
Yeah,
still
it's just a bummer to me at this point that they don't realize the illegal reasons and propaganda behind it have been built to sell us shit,
mhm,
and that's it. Like this wasn't ever an actual danger. The people that we've put in control chose to lie to us, and we bought it.
mhm.
And so I don't trust the people that choose to lie to us.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and figure out my own evidence and how things work for me. And so, with my experience with cannabis and using it more and more, especially as a grew up in a very say no to drugs world,
Yeah.
competed as an athlete through college. Like I really didn't have any experience with marijuana until I was 33
Mm,
or in my 30s. Uh, yeah, in my early 30s when I started really trying to figure out the knee deal. It started with edibles and further on, it eventually had led me into psychedelics and other stuff, and I found those helped me a ton.
hmm. Yeah, there's been a lot of cool studies coming out about psycho. I always read it, but I don't. Psilocybin? What's it?
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin. Yes,
That's
that's
the
what I'm
active
trying to say.
ingredient, the psychedelic compound in mushrooms
Hmm.
or some mushrooms is
Yeah,
psilocybin. So that would be the magic, if you will.
gotcha. Yeah. So, I want to kind of steer the conversation toward. I'm just curious because so much of what you did, so much of your identity, so to speak, was based on your physical ability, based on your ability to compete. Um, did you find that you had to do something to? Was there a void? Did you find that
Of
you had to do
course,
something? What did you do to address that?
I built my business.
Okay.
I attacked my business the exact same way that I approach training and obsession. I kind
Hmm.
of being being as hyperactive and ADD as I am, I gave up a long time ago trying to pretend that I give a shit about things I don't.
Mm.
It's a complete waste of time for me, and I don't have the ability. And so, at that point, when I quit competing, so that's the end of 2016. Hate Brand has been around since October of 14.
Okay.
So I've already kind of got the wheels spinning on it. We're running a business by that point, and I still have my regular 9 to 5 job doing outside sales in the petrochemical industry. So I've done that for about a decade.
Oh, you're still doing that
Until
too.
oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
while going through injuries and still traveling to go see customers on crutches and flying places.
Wow.
The job's got to get done. I don't
Hmm.
know how else to pay these bills. Um, so that continues on. They eventually fire me in March of 2017, and well deserved. Uh, they should have.
Well, it's probably a good thing for you.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. It was coming. Uh, well deserved. And so I never gave enough shit about that job the way I gave it about building my own thing. And so once I got the opportunity to lean in, build my own thing with reckless abandon, that's where I put all the focus and attention since I can't do anything else. But it's a really hard thing when there's a big identity attached to the brand that came from me as an athlete. Like, man, there's a big fear of like, fuck, I'm hurt. I'll never compete again. I run a brand based on this thing I did,
Hmm.
and I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear, man, of why
Hmm.
would anyone give a shit? But they did, and they've continued to, and it's something that the meaning has been, more impactful to them than anything I ever did, and how really unimportant that achievement was, other than I proved I can accomplish a thing.
Yeah. And I've gone through your social media and I've watched a lot of your content and it focuses on, a lot of it focuses on the, hey, just put in the work, do what you can, being consistent, all that stuff that we talk about. That's so important, but also like, is really that it? Like, yeah, that's really it.
That's it.
Um, but
There's no magic.
yeah, but I
People
wanna.
want there to be magic, and there just isn't.
Mhm. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough making that sound sexier than it is, but
Well,
it
but
is what it
I
is.
wish that people would accept the fact that there isn't any fucking magic, right?
Mhm.
Like there isn't any magic to your weight loss. There isn't any magic to you being happy. There isn't any magic that, in the same way, you're not fat or unhappy because of bad luck.
Mm.
You're waiting on magic. Start taking the fucking wheel, man. Start start addressing it systematically and fixing things. I'm happier if I'm in better shape because being in better shape gives me more options to go do things with my life. That's what it
Mhm.
is. It's a tool. My body, if I'm happier and healthier, produces better chemicals that keep me happy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Also, if I'm trying to do things, my body is adapting and growing, which is keeping me awake at the wheel instead of running in this operating system that's just on autopilot all the time, waiting to be reacting to shit that comes at it. Why aren't you pursuing and hunting? We are fucking predators, man. Choose your goals the same way.
Mhm.
Like that's what keeps us like active and interested in thinking and growing and adapting. Like same reason that I have to continually stress my body out in the gym for it to want to stay healthy. I have to do that with my mind and fucking spirit too.
Mhm. So you've had to figure out different ways to do all that, obviously, with I mean, how I guess I'm just curious, how limited are you, limited, so to speak? What are your restrictions on exercise right now, or what are you not
Um,
you know?
I can't really lift heavy anymore.
Okay.
But again, heavy is relative, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't lift I can no longer lift in the way that I enjoy lifting.
Hmm.
I enjoy lifting very aggressively and very violently. Like I want to Olympic lift, I want to do big push presses, I want to slam weights up, throw as heavy a weight as I can as violently as possible.
Mhm.
Big cleans and all those type of things. Heavy deadlifts or big squats. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to train back up to do it. And I couldn't have any less of a hard on for figuring out what my squat max is while I'm slightly crippled at 38. Like, what an uninteresting metric for me to invest a bunch of time in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know the max amount that this machine will ever squat. Let's go figure out what other achievements we can accomplish with it.
Mhm.
Instead of like, what's the other, like, I need to find out again at 38 what it can do. I don't give a shit.
Mhm.
I found the peak. Let's move on and go try something else. Let's go be bad at another thing for a while and develop some new skills, learn to problem solve instead of being mad that a thing that was supposed to end and be a finite chapter of life ended.
Yeah.
It's supposed
So
to.
so that anger, that frustration with the situation. I remember watching your documentary, and there was one scene where you were in your car and you were just yelling. You're just screaming. You were just like, I just want to I just want to fucking be able to, or I can't remember the exact, sentence, but
Yeah.
you know, it's as someone who's a fellow angry person, um, screaming at inanimate objects, yelling in the
Yeah.
car. Um, I'm, did you hit did you hit multiple breaking points? Did that anger get
Yeah.
out somehow? Did it get out in the way that
You
it
know,
should have, so to speak?
it manifested in plenty non-healthy ways.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, I managed to survive that chapter of my life and get out, but the marriage I was in did not.
Mm,
And that's due to me being fucked up, man. Um, sucks. A
yeah.
real bummer. But I'm glad she's better. I'm glad I'm better. We needed to go different ways. And there were just too many things at one time. And so now
Hmm.
there's plenty of stuff that didn't quite make it out. And it was a fucking rough time.
Yeah. I mean, what were the ways that, I mean, let's not go through, the temper tantrums or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
that part. But let's talk about what were some of the healthier ways that you felt you worked through that.
The healthier ways I worked through it was changing my diet, managing a routine with hot and cold.
Hmm.
Uh, the more experimentation I was doing with cannabis and psychedelics and finding new people to be around.
Hmm.
And it wasn't anything wrong with the people I was around, but they're the people I was around, right? So, like, they're not new exposure.
Hmm.
And I need to be around something new to want to change me. I know that if
Hmm.
I just stay doing that, this is what it looks like. And I don't want to do that.
So outside of outside of the physical changes, like getting into
Mhm.
the new community, getting into psychedelics, can I ask like what were the deeper, you know, identity changes? What were the deeper um,
Fears.
emotional process? Like what was going on? What was going on outside of you and your physical fitness? I want to know if
It
you're
was the
comfortable sharing
idea,
that.
man, that yeah, yeah. The idea and the big scary thing for me was I could see the rest of my life and it looked very normal. And
Hmm.
I don't know how interested I am in that. And the other side of that too was once I had submitted to the chronic pain, I don't really deal with any depression other than I know that I was during that period of time.
Hmm.
But that's not chemical depressed, right? I'm depressed because I'm in a really shit situation that I don't know how to get out of. And
Hmm.
so I just kept trying to figure out how to get out. Um, and for me, it kind of took pushing a big detonate button on everything and starting over. Uh, yeah, it took a lot. It took a lot to walk away from all of it and realize that I had to change.
Hmm.
That what I needed was to dig more into me and figure out what it is I actually like doing
Hmm.
so that I know what to pursue.
Hmm.
Not sure I answered your question.
Yeah, no, I'm thanks for digging. Um, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get out of you. So thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
it was really scary. It was really scary. Um, the other side of that fear really came from uh, at that point in my life. My father had passed away in 2014. Right, so yeah,
mhm.
my dad died of pancreatic cancer in 2014 on April 5th. Happens to be the day before my birthday.
That's
I
tough.
turned 31. It's easy to remember the date. It's a 1 in 365 chance. It's not terribly odd. Uh, but it was really loud and clear at that moment for me that how quickly it can change. That I watched him go in 11 months from healthy to dead.
Mm.
And at the final end of it, he'd had enough of the process and cancer and all that and shot himself. Um,
Oh wow, I'm sorry.
he didn't want to be sick anymore. I'm not sorry. I wouldn't have let one of my fucking dogs live that way. It's really shit that we have to let people do it. They're just fucking trapped inside that thing waiting for it to die because we're not comfortable.
Yeah.
For me, having an awareness of that, I don't know a reality that I run out the clock in that much pain.
Mm.
I probably don't. So I don't know what at point I've had enough that I would have punched out, but I believe I would have.
Yeah.
So I'm real stoked to not be there.
Hmm.
And so that
Wow.
kind of keeps perspective on how excited I am to now gives a shit about being able to compete in the Highland Games. Like, yo, I can walk. This
Mm.
was a thing that was never going to happen again. So let's figure out some new metrics. How far can we walk?
Hmm.
That's something I can be in complete control of, something I can train for. That's hard. That's a new wrinkle of training and discipline that I don't have
Hmm.
is something in endurance. Also, I'm not built to be good at it. So the expectations are super fucking low. I'm not fixing to go start running 100-mile marathon. I'm not Dick Bear, that ain't happening for me. I'm going to go do some random hikes in the woods and eat some mushrooms and focus on being really, really happy and living in gratitude.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of going from being so stoked about being able to do, these really remarkable, or what other people would consider remarkable feats of strength, and then having to kind of reframe your barometer of gratitude and seeing like, I'm grateful just for being able to walk, and but really getting to a point where you're not just saying that, but like really feeling like, I feel really
Oh, I
grateful right
feel it.
now that I can. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that I get to get up every morning and come do painless cardio or be annoyed that I'm gonna go walk pain free for an hour, that's a
Hmm.
great place I want to be in my life.
And you do that, do you keep in mind where you were and how much,
Always.
and that gives you the perspective to be able to appreciate just being
Well, not only
pain
that,
free.
man, like it's the appreciation of that, and it's the full awareness of I had I had submitted to that I was never going to get to do anything again.
Hmm.
I can't ever go snowboard. I was never going to get to go wakeboard or any of that. At best, I get to hang out and watch people do shit. Fuck that. I have never been a spectator.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be a spectator. I want to do shit. And so, yeah, man, it never misses for me that I get to do things again.
Mm.
And so it's changed so much, the gratitude. Also, I have a lot of gratitude for the guy that survived that really ugly window, man. He's not the dude that I am now. I'm way more on top of my shit and have figured myself out in another 3 years down the road and more work on myself and
Hmm.
trying new things. But man, I'm glad he got me here.
Yeah.
And not to mention, without the injury, I'm not here. I haven't got a chance to share this story. I don't get to build a community like we're building around here at the gym at Dope or with HVIII Brand Goods or any of these other things. For all extensive purposes, man, I could still be slugging away, maybe finishing top five in the Highland Games right now.
Hmm.
This is a way fucking cooler road.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for clarifying all that for me. I wanted to get really clear on, a lot of that stuff. So thanks for answering that.
No, I mean, I
Um,
think I think being able to control your perception of things is a really important part of it.
mhm. And that's
Whether or not something makes me angry or more or happy is really up to me.
was there was there a particular practice you did in practicing changing your, controlling your perception?
Um,
Or was it just living it? Was it just doing it day in, day out?
so for me, I started cannabis would make me a bit more introspective anyway.
Okay.
As someone that kind of started out more of a party drink, does those type of things, as
Mhm.
I don't know, young people do. Um,
Yep.
the parts of my personality that came out from that aren't helpful.
Mhm.
They're just ego sides of fucking loud and louder, and I don't need any more of that. Something that I can take that makes me more introspective and question my thoughts and question why I feel this way and why I think this way is a much better chemical for me to be dealing with.
Mhm. 100%.
Um, it it tends to let me put the light more on the parts of me that I don't care for, and I get to question, why do you do that? Why
Mhm.
do you act that way? Why do you respond that way? Why did that make you mad when nothing fucking took place?
Mhm.
And then further diving into, those perspective shifts have really come from daily microdosing. Psilocybin has been very, very valuable for me.
Mhm.
And then bigger doses occasionally to work on myself. Like, I mean, I damn near try to schedule them in once a month that I'm gonna take time to sit with myself and kind of meditate at that level with the
Yeah.
help of something like that and kind of put some fucking light on what I don't want to deal with.
So it's practices that help you to get into an introspective place where you can actually question the really deep
Yes.
the really deep feelings that are going on, and and reframing them, or what's, I guess I'm just like,
Um.
tell me more
So
about that.
so so how that works for me, right? I guess the best way I can describe it is it doesn't allow me to lie to me. And so what it
Mhm.
allows me to do is keep very honest perspective with myself and take emotion out of it, of the whatever the emotion is, right? Whether that's fallacy of sunk cost type shit of like, well, I have to do this because I've been doing it for 10 months. Instead, it allows me to be able to say, do we like doing this and does it help us? And if the answer is no, why are we bothering?
Mhm.
Why don't we figure out how to put that energy towards something that's in a direction we actually want to go instead of just half-ass breathing life support into some other side, thing I'm doing. It really
Mhm.
allows me to look at things that way and organize and process thoughts a lot better because I can't bullshit me. It doesn't
Mhm.
operate there. It feels really, really bad to operate that way with that medicine. And so I really use it as a way to figure out what I have anxiety about or,
Mhm.
how to read anxiety differently. That's been one of, I want to read anxiety differently. Like, I want to read anxiety of the fact that if I am anxious about this thing, that means I give a shit about the outcome.
Mhm.
And if I give a shit about the outcome, let's go.
Mhm.
That means we're in. Let's figure out how to get control to stack the cards in our favor to change the outcome. Let's not just sit back and wait for it to come at us and then go, oh no.
Mhm. So how often do you take time? Like what's the frequency? How many minutes, you know, per week are you spending on taking time to think through this, to do this kind of thinking?
Um, so I've been really, really good since the beginning of the year on like being disciplined on my morning routine.
Mhm.
My morning routine has consisted for the last 31 days of an hour typically of cardio in the morning. So whether I'm walking on the treadmill, riding the bike, moving around, I don't care. That I'm going to do some form of cardio. And while I'm doing that cardio, I'm not scrolling on my phone and looking at bullshit. I am engaging with some type of content, whether that's YouTube or documentary or something like that, that I'm interested in. Something that is going to pique my interest and keep me thinking in new directions. I want
Mm.
exposure to something new that I'm interested in. And
Mm.
if that is something as simple as eventually, I would like to build out a sprinter van to camp out of and do all those type of things. So why don't I start learning some information about that? Or if I'm very confused recently about whatever the fuck the metaverse is going to be, maybe I should start learning some information about that instead of burying my head in the sand and pretending it isn't coming.
Mm.
So I spend an hour, 30 minutes doing that
Mhm.
first thing, usually straight out of bed to kind of get there as quick as possible. Um, and then I try to spend 30 minutes to an hour in the sauna. And while I'm in there, typically my interest in whatever the first thing was has lost. And I have now I'll shift to an audiobook
Mhm.
that I think is going to be valuable about something that I am prioritizing in my life. Right now, I'm prioritizing consistently choosing uncomfortable things.
Mhm.
Um,
What are you
and
listening
so
to
I'm
right now?
listening Comfort Crisis
Okay.
by Michael Easter.
I'll look
Um,
it up. Comfort
Solid.
crisis.
Uh, and then after I wrap up that hour or so in the sauna, uh, I move to the cold tub and do breath work for 3 minutes.
Mm.
And then I start my day.
Nice.
And that time in the sauna, when I'm usually listening to the audiobook, something's going to pop up that I have to get out.
Mhm.
And I typically journal.
You journal. Okay, that was my next question. So you
Yeah,
do
yeah. So
journal.
I'll journal in the sauna there on my phone. I'm pretty strict about not getting lost in the other bullshit.
Mhm.
That thing
So
works for me.
so the journal process, do you just write whatever comes to mind?
Yep. I have no
Whatever.
intention of sharing it most days.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Doesn't
I
even matter.
I sometimes I'm so used to writing for like an audience that I'll sometimes write my
Mhm.
journal like, "Oh, I got to share it with someone." And then I'll I'm like, "Am I being honest right now?"
It's
It
a, it's
doesn't.
a, it's interesting, but it's interesting. The fact that you've even taken awareness of that is wild. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it because clearly both of those things have served you.
Mhm.
But at least the fact that that light bulb goes on, which kind of proves a little bit more of the observer theory, right? Like that idea that as soon as you're observing something, it acts differently as far as trying to measure what it does.
Mhm.
And you feel that in your own journaling, right? That as soon as you feel like someone else reading it, the voice has shifted a little.
Mhm.
And so a lot of time, if I'm journaling and I need it to just be guttural and me,
Mhm.
I'll do it by hand on paper,
Yeah.
and I write at the speed that I'm thinking, and it is illegible
Yeah.
and really never needs to be revisited.
Yeah.
I
I
need
am,
it out.
yeah, I can 100% support that, that if you are writing and it's illegible and you're all of a sudden you're not writing in a straight line and the letters are getting really big, then you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah, right. It's odd, but
Yeah.
I don't need it to be valuable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need it
Mhm.
to be viewed by anyone. I don't care. Fucking burn it.
Mhm.
Um, every once in a while, if I don't have something, occasionally I'll look up a interesting journaling prompt. I've had a couple recently that I think are good ones.
Mhm.
One of which was, I want you to write down what you think the three biggest misconceptions of you are
Mm.
by other people and why they're right.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see why that would provoke some good thoughts.
Takes a while to get through that one.
Yeah. How many minutes, are you spending? Is there a set time? Do you just go for,
Typically,
like,
while I'm in the sauna.
okay.
So, at some point during that hour, 45, or however long I can stomach being in there that day.
Mhm.
And then in the colds, just breathe. And then I usually move into my office and start kind of the day. By that point, man, I am fucking on fire. Like, I am fired up with ideas and I want to do.
Mm.
And so from that point on, man, I just feel like I'm so much on the attack in
Mhm.
the morning, especially with, when I've got my body up and running.
Mhm.
I got, I didn't let this thing overwhelm me from the jump.
Mhm.
I'm at the wheel. I choose what gets to me. And so I pick something I'm interested in to be inspired by. Watch something like Meru or watch something like 14 Peaks or any of these other super mutants that are out there that just prove impossible shit's possible.
Mhm.
Get fired up by that, get in the sauna, listen to something else, get some interesting thoughts, do some introspection, figure out what is my intention?
Mhm.
Where are we trying to go? And always be clear on that. And the more clear I am on that, the better that direction wants to go. And then
Yeah.
into the cold, you get that giant fucking boost of dopamine and everything else. It's a three to
Mhm.
500% increase in dopamine. Also switches me into parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah. Hard not to be when you're in the
Let's
when in the
go.
ice cold. So two things. Number one, I like that you brought attention to getting clarity on what you're trying to do. Just it sounds like for the day, but just in general. But number two, a
I
lot of
sure
people.
shouldn't for the long term. Have if there's anything at this point in my life, I can't tell you. If I tried to tell 10 years ago me what I'd be doing now, full of shit, a
Mhm.
0% chance. So I am no longer trying to predict where I'm going to be in 10 years. All
Mm.
I know is I want him to have as many options to do whatever the fuck he wants to.
Mhm.
So I'll do whatever I can currently that enables that.
Yeah. I can feel that. I think when I was 18 years old and playing lacrosse, collegiate athlete, I didn't think I'd be doing yoga. Here I am. uh,
Here we are.
but the second thing that you were saying, I think a lot of people do all those things. Like they have this big morning routine and then they finish and they're just tired. And I think it's because it might be maybe their genetics are predisposed one way or the other, or they just have a lot of other stress that just make it, they just don't have as much energy. But I think what makes yours unique is that you're combining all of that physical activity with with mental activities that are giving you energy, that are,
Stimulating.
yeah, you're doing things in a way that it's not just something to get it done and be tired and be like, okay, I got my workout done for the day, but you're doing things to help build up, you know.
Yes.
So
I, I,
I think
I'm
that's
building the
significant.
engine. Like I'm getting the engine started that morning, right? Like I'm getting it warmed up before I just start dumping cortisol into it or anything else. Like that's
Hmm.
coming. I know it is.
Hmm.
My life is stressful and it's full of stresses I've chosen
Hmm.
and I love it. And so if I want to continue to go forward, I have to figure out how to manage stress better.
Hmm.
That's the big challenge. And I can manage stress better if I'm healthy, if I have a lower resting heart rate, if heart rate variability is better, if I
Hmm.
can down regulate faster, if I could do all those things, I can manage stress better. which allows me
Mhm.
to do my job better, which then allows me to handle managing more stress better.
Mhm.
And if I wanted to be as strong and resilient in the gym as possible, then I constantly have to keep pushing for stress so that I have something to adapt to.
Mm.
The rest of my life isn't any different. I want to keep adapting and growing for as long as I can.
Mhm. So your workouts
I
are a way
have
for you to
no
train
interest in,
stress.
yes, I have
Awesome.
no interest in retirement
Mhm.
or whatever that idea is. I'll just do now. I'll live now.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, this is a big question, but you do a crap ton of vlogging. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap. I don't, I feel like if I hung out with you for a day, 30 minutes, I don't know how much time you spend doing vlogging, but it's a
It's not
crap
as
ton of.
often. We basically kind of bailed on it since I got back from Dubai. I finally had to admit after 7 or 8 years worth of it that people really don't care, and that's okay. Um, I have the raddest video album of my travels of the
Mhm.
last decade, so I'm really excited about that. Despite the fact that it's not like my YouTube channel ever exploded and I got to become a travel vlogger for a living. It's all supported the rest of everything I do.
Mhm.
And so we're going to focus on telling bigger stories, like making a movie like Fragile or any of that, and
Mhm.
putting more quality content with a lot of heart into it instead of here's my day. And if people were interested in here's my day, then that's what they would get. But my fucking day's boring. My day's really consistent
I think most people's
because
are.
that's what gets us progress. Like I
Yeah.
never tried to hide that, right? Like, hey, it's Monday. Guess what? I'm squatting again. Why? Because that's what works. Not because it makes you feel better or you're entertained. I want you to see the grind. I
Mhm.
want you to see that I show up every day. That's why there's that level of amount of
Mhm.
blogging.
So yeah, what was you did it for so long. What was driving you to do it? What made you keep it up for as long as you did?
Consistency. I committed to
Mhm.
doing it.
Mm.
And it did work, right? Like it does help drive the brand. It does help
Mhm.
get eyes. It does help me share content. It gives me a reason to travel and
Mhm.
do a lot of rad things. Um, but there also becomes that part of being present while you're in it.
Mhm.
And at some point, like I knew for a lot of my travels and a lot of my blog, the stuff that I was doing in my life that I thought would make the really good content, I was never willing to film
Mm.
because then it wasn't for me.
Mm. Okay.
More in-depth conversations I had with people or times that I got to spend with people that if I'm sharing it, it it comes across like look who I'm with.
Mm. Okay.
When I can't believe I get to interact with some of these people anyway. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can while I'm there.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, and I would say that, you might not be getting millions of views on those vlogs, but I bet you the people who are watching them are mostly watching them from start to finish, or a huge percentage are watching them from start to finish. And, I would hope very inspired by your story. And
There's been plenty of it.
yeah.
We have an interesting backlog of footage. There's a lot of it there. I mean, you can go all the way back to me throwing in the Highland Games in 2016.
Hmm. Yeah. Cool. Man. All right. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to start moving to part two, which is kind of my rapid fire section.
All right.
And this is where I ask you some more general questions that I don't know how to explain it, so I'll just start doing it.
All right.
What do you think is one habit, a belief, or a mindset that has helped you the most in terms of your overall happiness?
Anything's possible. And it's up to me. I know that's probably two answers, but essentially, like the one that has wrapped it up that I keep kind of saying as a mantra to myself is only I can build my dreams.
Mm.
No one else is ever going to give a shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool. They should give a shit about building theirs.
Mm-hmm. Anything is possible. You actually had someone else say that, and I'm just trying to trying to grapple with the depth of that. I'm trying to, because you know,
I have
I'm.
too much proof at this point from people I'm around that anything's possible, including myself. Like I said,
Mm,
if I went back and told a decade ago what I'm doing with my life, so I'm 28. I am what the end of January in 2012. I haven't won a Highland Games World Championship yet. I've written a book. I have loosely mentioned the hate, and I haven't really started filming stuff yet. And to tell that guy what my life currently is, like, yo, you're full of shit.
mm,
Like, what do you mean last year we went to Africa, Dubai, and 3 weeks in Iceland? What do you mean we run multiple brands and we're our own boss? What do you mean we're not still fucking married? What do you mean?
mm,
So to pretend something's not possible, wrong.
got it. So it's more so the idea that it's not okay. So that makes more sense to me. So it's more so the idea that anything can happen. It's like you
Anything.
what you expect is going to happen.
Well,
It's
expectation is shit anyway,
mm,
right? Expectation is based on some reality that you don't really have any evidence about. Stick with intention. My intention is that I want to stay making progress. My expectation is we'll see where that goes.
mm,
But if I set the expectation of I need to be this by here, you don't have any evidence to support that being fucking real, man.
mm,
And so you can either put the same amount of effort into following my intention that I would have put into chasing perhaps an unrealistic expectation, one of which lends me with a lot of gratitude and the other one leaves me really bummed with the same outcome. That's a simple perspective shift.
mm. All right, cool. That gives me some clarity. So thank you. All right, next question. What's one thing that you do for your health that you think is overlooked or undervalued by others?
Choosing stress
Mm,
on a regular basis,
hmm.
most of the time or day.
So
Choosing,
choosing things that make you uncomfortable, choosing things that
yep,
are hard.
yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's a weird intangible. I don't know how to measure what it actually benefits, right? Like saying yes to speaking engagements, saying yes to like I still get I've done tons of podcasts,
Hmm.
but I still get anxiety about doing them every time. I still halfway fucking look for a way out before I do every episode.
Mm,
And I see it. I just don't listen to that voice anymore. It's like, how about we're busy or I don't want to do that right now. Or,
mm,
like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like one of the things you want to do is be a podcast host. You
hmm.
enjoy doing it. One of the things you'd like to do is speak to more people and be able to share your story. How is there
Hmm.
a better opportunity? And how else are you going to get the reps and be good at telling your story?
Hmm.
Start talking to people. Talk to anyone. And so, yeah, it's it's diving into that feeling of like, why would anyone give a fuck about the things I have to say?
Mm. Yeah, I really feel that. I really feel that idea of leaning into discomfort. Like if you're really feeling something, it might take a while for you to kind of develop the sense of being able to tell what that feels like. Like there's a difference between like, maybe I shouldn't jump off the cliff, or you know, maybe I should do this because it's going to be fun and help me grow, but I'm scared about
Look,
doing it. But
learn
it does
risk
take some
versus
time
reward.
to learn that and
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, learn risk versus reward, right? Like I'm interested in being uncomfortable. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to go compete in jujitsu on a fake knee.
Mm,
I would like to learn jujitsu, and I'll do that and control as many things as I can. If I have the ability to work one on one with a coach or do it private or
hmm.
do any of these type of things, that's what I have to do. Otherwise, when I get fucking hurt doing it the other way,
Hmm.
that's my fault. It's not jujitsu's fault. It wasn't jujitsu was bad for me. No, I did a
Hmm.
shit version of it.
Hmm. Well, hey,
Taking that accountability of whatever it is, you know?
we could form a jujitsu for people who are scared about knee injuries group, and that could be fun.
Uh, I
um,
hope you're not considering I have a whole lot of knowledge in the jujitsu department because I have close to none.
oh no, we'd find a coach with a bum knee. who would be able to
Oh,
relate to us.
perfect.
Yeah. Um,
Perfect. Mine just doesn't bend great. Oh well. I did it. Like I'm not amazed it's fucked up. I was really, really gnarly to it for a decade.
mm, yeah.
That's how things work out.
Yeah. Um, do you have a set time for, well, we talked about your regular stress, would you, well, the question is, do you have a regular set time for stress relief? Do you have an activity that you do? How frequently?
um, yeah, I mean a handful, right? Like I get stress relief from walking on the treadmill or training.
Mm-hmm.
I get stress relief from boxing, doing any of those type of things. I like moving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I get a stress relief from hanging out in the basement watching movies with my chick and being super stoned. I get a stress relief from sex. I get a stress relief from having cookies sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm into down regulation. Like for me, that's one of the reasons I like cannabis so much is
Mm-hmm.
what I want to figure out between being able to do the cold plunge in the evening as well because that is the down regulator, right? Like that's a switch to flip to down regulate because of the cold. I want to be as high energy and stress and focused for as many hours as a day as I'm efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to hit the brakes as hard as fucking possible to down regulate and rest so that I can do it again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in hanging out on cruise control.
Yeah. Something I want to point out though is that you're choosing those stressors. Like
Yes.
by you having the authority over that stress, that you're choosing to do it, that you're setting the parameters for it. It's not like you're just throwing yourself into something that you don't have any control over. And
What I want
um,
to be very clear about is everyone is in control of their stressors.
mm,
That's a fucking mindset.
mm-hmm,
At some point, that was a choice that you made. So either be okay with it or get the fuck away from it and then be okay with your choice. You don't
mm,
get both.
I
You
like
don't
it.
get to ever tell me that you don't get to do X because you had kids. We have a lot of things we don't understand with modern science, but we're just about fucking sure how those things get made.
Mm-hmm,
That's a choice. You chose to have kids. So figure out how to work it all out.
mm-hmm,
Or admit they're a fucking hassle and figure out how to get around it.
mm,
Figure out how to make yourself feel differently about the choice you made instead of halfway resenting your kids and pretending you don't and not taking care of yourself.
mm,
Go all in. Pick one.
mm-hmm,
Take care of yourself, which will probably make your kids fucking like you more and make stress better. Maybe figure out how to do it all together as a team. Maybe figure out there's an infinite number of strategies.
mm-hmm,
Just start trying them. There isn't a right or wrong. You know what I mean? But everything's your choice.
mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
overweight? Cool. You made bad decisions for a decade. Let's fix it. I can't do anything about what's in the rear view behind us. So I'm not going to let that dictate any of the time I'm trying to go straight ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that. Um, what's the most stressful
I've
part?
slowly
Oh,
whittled away the stressors I don't like.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, no. You were jamming and I just interrupted. I'm sorry. Um, no, I really like that. Be okay with it or get out. I think,
Those are the only options, man.
yeah.
Look, I don't believe I'm obligated to do anything. And so if I'm not obligated to be at places, then it's a choice. And if it's a choice, be fucking present or go home.
Hmm.
Don't be a fucking baby and ruin it for someone else. Be a fucking adult who made a decision,
Yeah.
who's in control of their life and not someone who's being dragged to something and then they're going to pout. A
Hmm.
fucking baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Okay. Next question. What's the most stressful part of your day-to-day life?
Um, like there isn't a consistent thing. Like what I've found with whatever this is I do for a living,
Hmm.
entrepreneurship or creating or whatever. I'm aware of what today the stress today is going to bring is there's going to be problems to solve that I don't know that are coming. Because if I don't have problems to solve, we're not growing.
Hmm.
So I need to be solving problems as much as possible. So that's where the stress comes, is something is going to come up that's going to be hard to figure out how do we get around it. Like, oh, normal things that were taking 3 months to get in for my business to sell and ship, ship them into me now went to 120 days. So we missed the back half of the year, but now I have 6 months worth of inventory that I can't just release all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So these are problems to solve.
Yeah.
Now, how do we change all of our strategy that we had in place for how this should have sold in the fourth quarter? And how do we stretch it over the first 2 quarters of 2020?
Mm.
How do we do that? How do we solve problems with changes in coffee pricing and wholesaling? What are my options out there? Like, what do other roasters look like? What do we have options of for bigger production? What do we have options for pivoting that business and getting more value to our customers?
Mm. Okay.
Have we tried this? Have we tried that? That's where I'm at. Like, I have to stay. Like, I don't have any part of the decisions I'm making in most days that are routine. And that's what I love. I don't want to fucking do busy work. I don't want to fill out an expense report.
Mm-hmm.
Yuck.
Yeah.
I want to do stuff that actually needs my attention.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 and 10% of the parts of my business that, after doing it for 8 years, I've been able to hand off things like content creation, editing and video work to Brant. And Brant does all of that so much better than I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And that frees me up now time to do more shit.
Mm-hmm.
That the content that when I was poorly editing every video was getting in the way of, because it still takes 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So the second I can hire someone to do a better job of that so that I have more time to problem solve the next thing, the better I am.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be these problems that pop up. And so the better I'm prepared to solve those problems is what I need to be training to do.
Got it. All right. Last big question. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing men and their well-being right now? Their happiness, their fulfillment, their healthiness. What's the biggest challenge?
Themselves, being honest with themselves,
Mm.
that they have gotten themselves here, that they need to figure out their direction, that they need to figure out what they actually give a shit about. And I'm sorry it didn't fall into place with all the things that we were told would make us happy by the time we were 30, but it was fucking wrong. And it's not our parents' fault either. They grew up in a very different time, raised by a generation of people who actually came from scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any. Our parents got sold on the whole idea that their existence comfort for our parents' generation was an absolute fucking luxury compared to what they grew up with. So, of course, that's the American dream they got sold.
Mm-hmm.
We all got raised and brought up with the idea that you can be anything you want, until we actually started trying to do that. And they said, that's fucking crazy. You shouldn't take those risks. You want to do the safe thing.
Mm.
Meanwhile, we're never uncomfortable. We never go out. Most people are in climate controlled times their entire life. They're living in recycled air. They are never hungry. Most people, the day you meet them, is the lightest they'll ever be, and they will just consistently gain weight till they're dead.
Mm.
Most people never check it. Most people never say no to themselves. Most people never do any of those type of things. And I believe that's where the mistake is that you just get caught in that idea that comfortable is somehow some type of success,
Mm-hmm.
but it isn't. The happiness and all that comes from struggle. The cool thing that we have now is we get to pick what we want to struggle about. I don't have to go struggle and get strong because I need to plow the field, yet those people were really happy and fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
You have the opportunity to be fulfilled by whatever dream it is you want to chase, but you are entitled to fucking nothing.
Mm.
Your existence, simply because you are here, does not entitle you to anything. You get what you work for, you get what you deserve.
Mm.
That's it. I don't even know if deserve works.
Mm.
You get what you get.
Yeah. Man, I'm really struck by just how much conviction is behind, you know, the everything you've been saying. It's not like I can tell that you're not just saying this because you read it. Like these are
Nah.
polluted, deeply rooted beliefs in you.
Yeah, this is what works for me.
Mm,
I believe, I don't know what technical term of enlightenment is, let's say, but I think what matters is how do I define that? And for me, feeling enlightened is that I am sovereign in my existence, that I am in 100% control of my machine and my emotions and my desire to go forward. I don't need a fucking good song on to choose to do hard things. I
mm,
don't need something else to give me permission to go where I want to go or feel how I want to feel.
mm.
That's how I feel enlightenment is. That I
Yeah.
damn sure, if I know that I have a certain amount of energy every day to put toward stuff, that's the battery for the day.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fucking way I'm giving 1% of it to some guy who drives like an idiot. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a vote in my life and in my day and on my emotions. Chances are he's a moron. Chances are I wouldn't enjoy talking to him. So why would I give him access to my energy system?
Mm. Yeah.
And people
Man.
let that shit ruin their whole day, dude.
Yeah.
What an
Absolutely.
incredible waste of energy.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Nope.
That guy's in a car doing something else, probably being mad about some other shit.
Yeah. Truth. All right, man. Well, that was awesome. Thanks for getting real. Thanks for being vulnerable. Talking
Yeah,
about
man, what's the point if
all
you're
of that.
not? You know,
Yeah.
fucking talk about sports games, chat and talk about how the big team did. I don't care.
Yeah. That was always it. That whole concept's interesting to me, but another
Look,
time.
again, back to emotions, right? I'm not choosing to let how a bunch of 22 to 25-year-olds play a game dictate my emotions for the weekend.
Mm,
These are people that I wouldn't let fucking house sit for me. I'm definitely not letting how they played a game determine how I feel today.
yeah.
Do I think they're incredible athletes doing amazing stuff? Oh, yeah. And I will watch that spectacle all the time.
Hmm.
But do I have anything that I give a shit tied to how the outcome of that challenge
Hmm.
ends up? I don't. I don't give a shit.
Right. Yeah. All right, man. So, what's the best way for people to continue to just keep up with you, learn more about your companies, support hate? That sounds really weird. Support. I said support hate.
For
Uh,
our
be
tagline for the
be
brand is "Spread hate,
patronizers of
always party."
really. By the way,
Yeah,
it's
man.
it's
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 about look.
spelled
It's
H
fucking
V
hate those
I
parts
I
of you.
I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about finding that awareness of those parts of you that are creating drag and realizing that you want to eliminate them. You are
Mm,
no longer going to accept your own bullshit. We
mm.
fix those things with movement, mindset, and motivation. I want you
Okay.
to build it from within.
This makes much more sense now. I
Yep,
appreciate the explanation.
no problem. We're not
Anywhere
doing tiki
else?
torches or anything in case anyone.
Yeah, that'd be
It's
weird.
not it's not the brand of hate. It's all focused more this way.
Yeah,
It has
that's
very little to do with anyone else.
all right. That makes more sense. Instagram, YouTube,
Yep,
all the
Instagram's
good
I
stuff.
hate Matt Vincent. YouTube's Matthew Vincent. So podcast is the name of my show.
Hmm.
Um, thehate.com is our website for apparel with HVIII Brand Goods. We also have Habit Coffee. Have some training programs. Daily Destroyer is on Train Heroic. And if anyone is interested in more of the words per se that are coming out of my mouth and mindset stuff, I have a mentorship group, the 1612, and that is the 1612.com. And we open enrollment every 8 weeks. And it's an ongoing kind of course talking about different mindset and perspective shifts and kind of strategies that I have used over the years,
Mm,
and people, being a resource for people that don't have people around them that simply believe you can do stuff.
I love
Like,
that.
it's so tough for me to hear that people are like, man, I just feel like I want to do more.
Mm,
And everyone around me thinks that's crazy.
hmm.
And I'm like, oh, well, fuck them. Let's go find
Yeah.
some people that are into doing more. that'll also help you how to problem solve doing more.
Yeah. That group sounds awesome. That sounds yeah, because not everyone's going to have the same interests. I mean, not everyone right around you is going to have that same interest to go deeper. So being able
Well,
to have that community.
the 1612 is in reference to, when my father passing away, right? And like that's kind of that
Mm,
all the really cool things that I want to accomplish in my life at the day I turned 31 need to happen in the next 1612 weeks. That's
mm,
it. Tick tock, get busy. Whether you choose to accomplish those things that you dream about or not doesn't change the fact that that clock's running.
mm.
I'll happily die tired, man.
Yeah.
And so having that is really what that's about. Is I want people to find that drive to give a shit every day instead of just going and doing the same routine and not growing and realizing that you're on autopilot, and that's how you have that what just happened, 20 years disappeared.
Mm,
Yeah, I want you to want to build as many days in your life that don't blend into others.
hmm. Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you for all of that. Guys, thanks so
Yeah,
much for joining me for the Manful Yoga podcast. Matt, I hope we get to continue to keep chatting. Please keep inspiring me.
try to do what I can. I hope it works.
Yeah.
I'm having a good time with it. I mean, hell, man, don't get me wrong. Like half of the shit I'm yelling here, I'm yelling at myself.
Yeah. Hey, I mean,
I'm
I feel
aware.
that.
I need to hear it too.
I feel
It needs
that.
the repetition to get fucking drilled in here, just like anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
It's not one day and done, man. It is a decade of yelling at myself.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next podcast, next video. Take care. If you like that episode, check out this other one right here. I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed, click this subscribe button over here, and you can listen to the full episodes on any major podcasting platform. Full details below in the description.